I didn't want to do this yet. I didn't want to do this, but I feel like I'm forced to. I feel like I've been forced to. So chat, if you didn't see this yesterday, there was a clip or a tweet that CarQ, my friend, my duo, my goat.
39 months with my favorite streamer. Flats hype.
Thank you for 39 months. I appreciate it. My goat put out this tweet and said, I think Marvel Rivals is pretty fun, especially the chaos of learning all the new heroes they added. But after the initial honeymoon phase wears off, I think this game needs some form of rollock badly. It was not fun playing 0 tanks, 4 DPS, and 2 supports. And if you didn't see my video that went out yesterday, I talked about how the only reason we got to have any fun, or they got to have any fun, is because I played tank every goddamn game. And last night, at some point, it went 2.5 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes before a single person on my team, other than me, picked tank. And they're not wrong. People don't want to play tank or support sometimes. But I think that's the way the game is going to go. And if you didn't see yesterday, I basically gave a take of, I want to see them go the complete opposite of Overwatch. All the way. I want them to go full open queue. I don't want them to top-down balance. I want them to go full-on crazy. Like, they want, like, balance for casual players. I want them to full-on, like, want people to have fun, lean into the power fantasy. Yeah, there'll be a competitive scene, of course, but, like, just go all in the opposite direction. Because, like, whether people like it or not, it's kind of a different... It's kind of much more casual. Or, sorry, Overwatch is much more competitively balanced than a lot of other games. And... I want to see this really quick. If you don't know who I am, I am Butts. I've played Overwatch for many, many years. I've been streaming the game for many, many years. And I don't even think people know even the history of what happened to Overwatch. Overwatch originally was an open queue game, right? It was an open queue game from 2016 to 2018. And what happened was, in 2018, the demon was unleashed. And when the demon was unleashed, I mean the most broken character in the history of any video competitive hero shooter ever. Brigitte. Brigitte was a menace. A character with the ability to one-shot a hero called Tracer, who was arguably the strongest DPS in the game, with a combo that would full stun them. And it wasn't a skill shot, it was a giant shield bash. What happened, though, with Brig, was that Overwatch was very slow to balance. Balance was only coming out every 3 to 6 months, and they didn't understand the problem. The balance team of Overwatch at the time was kind of hard-headed and stupid. They didn't understand that the thing that was holding the meta together was not tanks, it was supports. Because what is happening right now is, in Rivals, I promise it's all going to make sense. Let me get to it. What's happening in Rivals is people don't want to play tank. I think support actually isn't that bad, but I think people don't want to really play tank. And what Rivals has done is they don't have, like, the tanks are not that strong. Like, they're strong. Like, if you play a game against tanks and you don't have a tank, you feel it. But, like, I think what Rivals was trying to do was to not have goats. And if you don't know what goats is, Brig is what started goats in Overwatch. If you don't know what Overwatch goats was, it was a 3-3 comp where Brig, Moira, Lucio was paired with 3 tanks, Ryan, Zarya, D.Va, and you would just deathball walk at an enemy team and they'd all fall over and die. The sustain was insane, and the thing that held it together was not the tanks, which the Overwatch balance team at the time did not understand, it was the supports. The supports is what held the entire meta together. But they didn't want to nerf Brig. They didn't want to nerf or say they were wrong. The character ended up over 2 years getting nerfed like 30 plus times until it finally became into a more balanced state. And then they changed it, and then they put the game into maintenance mode until Overwatch 2 came out. Point was, though, roll queue never saved it, because when roll queue came out, that was in season 17 of Overwatch 1. It was the same season that Sigma came out. When Sigma came out, that was when they started double shield. And you know what the double shield comp was? It was Orisa Sigma, the 2 tanks. The DPS swapped multiple times throughout the metas, but there was like Doom Mei, there was Reaper Mei, Reaper Doom, there was a few other things, but the backline was Brig Bap. Why was that the backline? Because it had an immortality field, AoE heals, and Brig the best support in the game. Brig was still holding the game together, even post-goats. So roll queue actually didn't stop the menace of Brig. It just shifted it. And so what happened was, we went to roll queue, which honestly, in my opinion, was a good thing. It's what was needed for the game. But Overwatch, overall, whether people like it or not, is balanced as a competitive shooter. Most of the characters are pretty balanced in comparison to each other. They don't always get it right. Trust me, if anyone knows that, it's me. between Mauga, Orisa, Hog. I think there's so much bullshit that they don't know what they're doing. But I think Rivals is going to go the opposite direction.
Here they come.
I think they're going to go hyper casual balance. I think they're going to lean into hero fantasies, and I want to see them do that. I want to see them go the opposite way. And even though I think role queue is what people are going to ask for, it's actually not the correct answer just yet. And I actually don't think it'll be the answer eventually. I think, if anything, a preferred hero role, like you could set your profile to being a preferred hero role, saying like, hey, I like to play tank, and then the matchmaker maybe takes that into account. Maybe. Then again, people can lie on it, so that's not going to work either. I'm just saying there needs to be something that gets people to play tank. Now, some of the answers that get people to do that is, well, what if there's more tanks? I have talked to people from Overwatch and other things in the past, and even though more tanks get added to the game and all of these things get added, it wears off very quickly. It's not an exclusive Overwatch problem. It's not an exclusive Rivals problem. It's not an exclusive anything problem. It's tank in every game. Even World of Warcraft has a tank problem. Nobody wants to play it. Tanks are not the most fun thing to play in video games. So most people like to play damage. And then support is typically number 2. So you're always going to have the least amount of players playing that role. If you implement role queue, you lose the enjoyment you have right now of your instant queues. Yes, it's the launch week, right? So like, yeah, it's like 1 second queues. But like, let's say, let's hypothesize a few weeks from now, right? Hypothesize a few weeks from now, queues go up to 30 seconds or a minute. That is the difference between that and role queue would be 4 minutes, maybe? Would you be willing to wait 4 minutes or 5 minutes to get a game? Well, we've seen in Overwatch, people don't like to do it eventually. Like, they get tired of it, and they have to figure out a way to balance it out. And so one of the beauties of open queue is they just need to get 6 players into a game of similar rank. With open queue, or sorry, with role queue, you would have to get a tank player. And if there's only, say, 10% of the player base or 20% of the player base even plays tank, you've just now cut your pool much smaller. Because it's, let's say, 70% of players are playing DPS, right? I'm exaggerating a little bit. Follow the logic. 70% of players play DPS. 10% play tank, right? 20% is way too high. I know, but follow the logic here, right? And then 20% are playing support. That 70% is a giant mech, and it becomes long queues. So my take for everything so far is it's way too early. You gotta let the game give some time. Like, I know that it's annoying to not get a tank player on your team, but this is gonna sound really bad. I just want to say, there's gonna be a little social pressure. There's no ranked yet. I think social pressure might help a little. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in Overwatch 1, in the original,
incoming,
you would get games where you have 6 people pick a DPS character, and everyone just sits there and you lose the game. Until everyone's playing chicken, until somebody goes, okay, I'll swap Mercy. Okay, if somebody goes Mercy, I'll go with tank. And then you have 4 tanks and a support. The social pressure of wanting to win the game gets people to swap. It's actually how I became a tank player. Because originally, when I swapped over to PC, I was a DPS player. Queues were long, I wasn't that good mechanically, I got stuck around Masters, I ended up playing tank, got into GM right away, and then I enjoyed being good at the game again, and then I was like, you know what, I'm enjoying the challenge of learning something new, and I played more of it. No, I'm not endorsing toxicity, it's just like, that's how competitive games are. They're going to get people to try to work together, and like, sometimes you gotta take one for the team, and there are more players that are probably like me, that are willing to take one for the team to get the win, than you probably think. And so, comp isn't even out yet. I think comp and people wanting to win will kind of push people more towards those other roles to get them to play. Yeah, it's going to cause toxicity. Yeah, it's going to cause all these things, right? But like, I think there's probably people that haven't even touched tank or played tank because they just haven't been attracted to it yet. But if they get put into a situation where they might force to, it might not be a bad idea. So here's how Rivals solves the problem. They go all in on the hero fantasy balance. They just go all in for it. They make everything strong because if everything is broken, nothing is broken. I think it's way too early. I think, yeah, you can still add more tanks and supports for people to play, vanguards and supports. But the thing is, though, at least in my experience, the more you add for those roles, yeah, it gives like a little boost, but it's not typically for too long. People are going to always flock back to DPS. And if there was something I read a long time ago about how Rivals was looking at the game, they want to balance the game or have the game be played where you don't have to always have like 2-2-2 or have to always have these things. They want the characters to be somewhat self-sustaining. Like they want them to be able to play on their own. That's why a lot of characters have self-heal or like their own form of shielding or healing or whatever. I would propose the only thing that Overwatch or that Rivals could do and learn from Overwatch is the global healing passive. Now, if you don't know how it works in Overwatch, if you don't take damage for 5 seconds, you start to regenerate HP based on your total health pool. So if you are a 650 HP character, you will regain something like 40 HPS over time after 5 seconds of not taking damage. If you are a DPS character and you only have 200 health or 250 health, then you get, what I say, 40? You get like 15 or 20. Right? Incoming. And so it's scales based on how much health you have. So for tanks, right, if you're out of the fight for 5 seconds and it kicks on, it will take you on average, what, like 3 seconds to full heal from 1 HP. But if you're a DPS and you're out of the fight for 5 seconds and take no damage, you will also, again, heal to full HP in 3 seconds. By doing it as a percentage-based model, it doesn't matter what your health pool is. That way, tanks aren't subsequently punished for having a larger health pool, right? They can change the numbers however they want, but it's a good, and I know that people are going to say, but there's health packs. I know there's health packs in Overwatch too, but it was one of the things, it was one of the few changes that they made that was genuinely really good, and I would just say consider it. Genuinely consider it, because I want them to go the complete opposite in everything else. But I think that one small piece could give you enough that if you have those games with like 1-4-1, you don't feel like you're sitting there not getting healed ever and you're constantly looking for health packs. It would give you a little bit more autonomy. I can't speak, I just woke up. To the individual player. So, listen, okay? I just want to say, calm down. It's too early to make any sweeping ideas and sweeping, oh, this needs to happen. Autonomy, yeah, thank you. I can't speak this morning. Listen, I didn't even want to do this, okay? I even said earlier, do I even want to talk about this right now? And I said no, but you kind of pulled it out of me. You kind of pulled it out of me here because everyone just needs to pump the brakes. Just give it a little time. It's a little too early. The game is fun. Just have a good time with it. That's the way to play. I think that they're gonna just lean into the superpower fantasy, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But does it need role queue? I think it's way too early. I think it's way too early.
Nothing personal.
And I think in a lot of ways, there is an argument to be made that role queue does remove a lot of the great aspects of being able to swap to other roles whenever and swap to other characters whenever, and is more restrictive. And restrictions on video games don't make it fun. Yes, I agree. I know that not having a tank on your team or having a support on your team kind of blows. It's not fun, but I don't think role queue is the answer yet. I think I'm open to other ideas, but I think it's too early. But yeah, as someone who's played Overwatch for many, many years and has seen how it's gone, even though I think role queue is very much good for the game back then, and I still stand by that today, I don't think they're the same game. I think they're very different. So we'll see.